Alright, so today, like I said, we're going to continue with the custom tactics. And custom tactics are really important in FIFA 22. And like I said, if you are going to be looking at the team that I've shown you in the previous episode, you want to be looking at custom tactics that can offer you always an option with 4 strikers, 2 midfielders, and 4 defenders. So I have the 4-3-2-1 as my favorite formation right now. You can want to be using balance, you can use 70 depth. These are the kind of things that you always have to think about, that it's important. You want to keep your defensive line as narrow as possible, because in FIFA 22 it's harder to create down the wing than it is through the middle. So you want to keep it pretty tight at the back. So the defensive width you always want to keep between 35 to 50. And I personally like 40. The depth, 70 depth is something that is just in the game that it feels like your defensive line is always on pretty much on one length, if that makes sense. They're always on the same kind of height in terms of on the pitch, and they do tend to be pretty aggressive on intercepting the ball. So if you don't like that, you just want to go with like 50, 55, maybe even 45, because also in this game you don't want to sit too deep, because it can get pretty dangerous if you let your opponent get near to your box easily. But my personal preference is going to be 70 depth. And then build-up play. Balanced is just going to be key in pretty much every formation. You can use fast build-up if you like to be very attacking, but this can also bring a lot of risks together with long ball. Long ball is a certain build-up play that you can always try, because usually you have these quicker options to get people in behind, but it can also be tough to reach your strikers if they constantly are further up the pitch than, for example, your fullbacks or your midfielders that want to look for a pass. So balance is usually key, and the chance creation, the best ones are direct passing or balanced or forward runs. Possession, I feel like it's not really something that really changes up your play style. If you like to play possession, you can also just keep it on balance, for example. Direct passing, though, really allows you to have these constant attacking spaces opening up once you pass from your CDM to, for example, your winger. The striker is going to make a run. It just keeps the players moving. And with forward runs, they just constantly, when they get the ball, everybody's trying to go forward. So this can also bring some risk. It could work very well with fast build-up, but it's just a matter of your own play style, really. So with the 4-3-2-1, I would always go with balanced and direct passing, and I want to keep the offensive width also pretty narrow, because 4-3-2-1, you want to have these 2 right and left forwards always sitting between the fullbacks and the center backs, which can make it really dangerous. Players in box is something you always want to keep between 4 and 7. In extreme situations, you could put it a little bit higher, but in general, you want to go with these tactics. So for instructions, you want to go with stay central, get in behind on the striker, and get in behind on the right and left forward. And this is something that is just going to be very dangerous for your opponent, because they have 3 players running at them. You can also go with mixed attack on these players if you feel like your opponent is defending the through balls very well. The right and left center mid you want to keep on balance and cover wing, because you also want to have a bit of pressure on the opponent's wingers, because we don't really have wingers, and then you'd have to press with your fullbacks. But if you don't mind that, you can also go with cover center. Covering center just make sure that it's harder for your opponent to reach a striker or strikers. Stay back while attacking and mixed attack on the run type as well. You could go with overlap, but I think that is a bit too risky in this formation, so I'm just staying with mixed attack. And obviously no really further instructions needed on the center backs. You could go on the keeper with like a sweeper keeper, but I don't really like to do so. So this is a 4-3-2-1 tactic that is my favorite formation right now. But like I said, if you have these options with 4 attackers, you want to be able to switch it up. So you also want to install, like for example, a 4-4-2, that you can have 4 attacking players, 2 wingers, 2 strikers, 2 midfielders. And you always want to make sure that before you enter a match, that you actually have 2 or 3 formations set up that you can switch on. If the 4-3-2-1 is your main formation and it's not working, you could switch to a 4-4-2. Are you leading and you want to build a bit more security, you could switch to a 4-2-3-1, for example. And even maybe in the dying seconds, you want to just shut up shop, you could go to a 5-3-2 or a 5-4-1. And that's how I set up my gameplay, my game plan, I should say, with these different custom tactics. But I use my the squad that I have available to myself in these optimal formations. So in my opinion, these 4 formations that I have set right now are able for me to play, because I'm going to show you, for example, this 5-back. I just put Fellaini as the center back as well, because he's tall, he could play center back, he really is a CDM, and I don't mind having Jonathan David and Hazard as these right and left central midfielders, because they also are unbalanced and they want to go forward. But I don't really use a 5-3-2 too often, but that is just something, a little bit of an insight of how I actually use my custom tactics. We have plenty of custom tactics videos up on our YouTube channel. You can check them out if you like to. But next up, we're just going to check out what should you do in terms of scoring in FIFA 22.